Welcome back. Republicans in the U.S. House released their tax reform bill, and lawmakers are promising tax breaks for middle-class Americans and a major cut to the corporate tax rate. But the plan already has many critics. Correspondent Lana Zach has more.
Together with the president, House Republicans celebrated the release of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, saying many Americans will be able to file their taxes on a postcard.
It will be the biggest tax reduction in the history of our country.
Among the major changes, the corporate tax rate will be slashed from 35% to 20%. The standard deduction for middle-class families will roughly double from $12,000 to $24,000 for married couples. And the child tax credit will increase from $1,000 to $1,600.
With this plan, the typical family of four will save $1,182 a year on their taxes.
But there are ways that Americans may be paying more in taxes. Mortgage interest deductions on future home purchases will be capped at $500,000, and state and local income tax deductions will be eliminated, and property tax deductions capped at $10,000, a blow to families living in high tax areas. That last point and the price tag on the cuts have some Republicans expressing reservations.
Well, I think over 10 years we're looking at $1.5 trillion roughly. That's some of the things we got to get our arms around.
Democrats say they're skeptical of a sweeping overhaul written behind closed doors.
They're ashamed of this bill. The Republicans know the more this bill is exposed out there, the less people like it.
And that was Lana Zach reporting there. Let's now bring in Stefanie Miller. She's a senior analyst with Securities. Stefanie, good to have you with us. And Stefanie, what is generally being accepted as a positive by most people in this plan? What's the one thing that people are agreeing on?
Thanks for having me. I think in terms of general reaction, I think the reduction of the individual rates, the simplification, and trying to bring down most individual tax rates is very positive, as well as bringing down that corporate rate on the business side. That's a big drop from 35% down to 20%.
Well, this plan has been touted as tax cuts for everyone, perhaps not the rich, but for everyone in between. And part of this plan involves cutting the income tax brackets to 4 from 7. So this actually means that there are definitely not tax cuts for everyone. A lot of people and households in the 33% bracket have now moved up to the 35% bracket. And this, if you look at it, it actually hurts the upper middle class households, people making over $260,000. They've been moved up to the 35% bracket. And also in states like New York and New Jersey, they're now going to have fewer deductions. So this is not the 1% that we're talking about. It's not the rich. It's the upper middle class, if you will. Do you think that that's going to get a lot of backlash?
I do. I think that combined with the unexpected changes on the mortgage interest deduction, which previously was capped at $1 million, and this plan proposes to cap it at $500,000. I think those types of moves, which sort of go after home ownership and upper middle class individuals, that's going to need to change going forward for this bill to move through both chambers of Congress. This needs to be a middle class bill. It's being messaged as that, and until everyone sort of gets on the same page there and truly believes that that's what's possible, I don't see it moving forward.
Well, I want to focus a little bit more about these tax brackets before we get into some of those other issues. 39.6%, sure. That's the top rate. That starts to apply at $500,000 for singles, $1 million for joint households, for joint filings of households. So if someone is making $500,000 or $1 billion, essentially they now fall into the same bracket. What is the argument for having fewer brackets and lumping people into such a huge range into the same category? Why not have more brackets and more specific ranges?
That's a great question. I think politically, one of the few things that polls really well is simplification, and that idea of simplification typically is talked about as being able to do your taxes on a postcard. But I think part of that is just having the whole system sort of streamlined, and sort of an offshoot of that is reducing those number of brackets. But I agree. I don't necessarily know if it makes it actually simpler or deals with sort of the equitable issues that you raise. It's why we at Height have been skeptical for months that they really are going to ultimately be able to narrow that down from 7 down to 3 as they originally proposed. Now it's up to 4, and we may need to get 1 or 2 more before it starts treating different income brackets in a way that is aligned with that middle class tax cut messaging.
I mean, you could even argue that 7 were too few if you're looking at the top end of that started at 440,000, right. Again, up to 100 million. Seems like simplification just for the sake of simplification. Let's talk about some of the more controversial things. Deductions for medical expenses and student loan interests, they're out. That's going to cause some backlash for sure. And also state and local income tax deductions, they're also out. What does that mean for the lawmakers from those states? Does this now diminish the chances of this actually being passed through? Because lawmakers from New York, New Jersey, California, they're not going to be able to let that slide, are they?
They won't, but one of the things to keep in mind that we've been sort of cautioning a number of folks who turn to us for advice, that all of this was supposed to sort of become harder in the interim. Once you got the bill text, once you see how they've pieced together tax reform, we expected there to be a number of groups that were unhappy, and you named a number of them, and there are multiples more. And the process going forward is going to be to ask certain groups to take pain so that the overall bill can pass. Right. How that actually plays out is sort of still being litigated, but in the end, we don't think it diminishes prospects.
All right, we'll see how it plays out. Thank you so much, Stefanie Miller.